Hey ho, and what do you know? Welcome everybody to another edition of the Balkin podcast. And Merry Christmas to all who celebrate opening day, because today, well, really, you're getting this probably Friday because I just had no time to put this all together until the last minute. But happy opening day or happy belated opening day for you all. Hope you guys have been enjoying the baseball season so far, but we want to make sure we drop our MLB predictions for the season. So basically, here's how it's going. I'm giving you everything you need, and I'm not going to waste much time. We're going to go over my predictions for each division. We're going to go over my award winners for this season, my wild card teams, and predictions for each round, culminating in our World Series champion pick. God help me. I'm really going to pick them. Oh, boy. Help me. Anyways, you guys, let's not waste any more time, you guys. Here we go. The Balkan of Podcast predictions for the MLB season this year. All right, we are starting with the AL East, where I have the New York Yankees winning the division once again, sadly. With the addition of, Carlos Rodon, the pair with Nestor Cortez and Garrett Cole at the top of the Yankee rotation, this is a deadly trio potentially in New York. Now, re-signing Aaron Judge helps a lot, but what might be more impactful is the arrival of Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza to play every day up the middle. I mean, these two are special players. It's going to be fun to watch them play every single day. I've seen them both play. I mean, they're exciting to watch. But this also makes Gleyber Torres expendable and a nice trade chip to move for a pitcher, whether it be a reliever or a starter in the future. I think they'll lean reliever, but we'll see over time. The Yankees have that veteran experience, but also are adding that youthful injection that they desperately need to make a potentially special Yankee team. Throw into the fact they have a bitter taste in their mouths from the ALCS. I don't think you can pick against a team that has a chip on their shoulder, especially one where they had such a great regular season, to be just swept out of the ALCS by the Houston Astros. So we have the Yankees winning the division. All right, we have the Toronto Blue Jays finishing in second place, and everybody seems to be down on the Blue Jays, but should they? They have an improved rotation, adding Chris Bassett to the rotation with Alek Manoah and Kevin Gausman. Whenever Ricky Tiedemann arrives, they could have a very dangerous rotation. You have Jordan Romano, who solidified the back end of the bullpen, made a huge difference, with the rest of the bullpen falling into place. Now you add Eric Swanson to set up for him. Yes, it cost you Teoscar Hernandez, but you add Dalton Varsho in a trade that wasn't too bad. I mean, only time will tell if all these moves make the Blue Jays lineup a better team. But I think at the end of the day, you have a really good rotation. You have a better bullpen than you did last year. It's more built to win the division and win in October. So the only time is really going to tell if, the Blue Jays really lose a step with their offense, but I think their offense is still as dangerous as ever, and they should not be taken lightly at all. Finishing third, we have the Tampa Bay Rays. I've learned long enough that you don't underestimate the Tampa Bay Rays at all. Yes, they have some injuries. Tyler Glasnow again is injured. Questioning, can these guys overcome it again? And the thing is, they're so deep with so many talented players. The Rays can bounce back. There's no question about it. As long as Shane McClanahan continues his Cy Young form from a year ago, they'll have a chance. You have Curtis Mead and Taj Bradley on the way, finally making their debuts in Tampa Bay. I think at some point this year, they'll get Luis Patino back, which that'll be intriguing as well. But the key to everything is Wander Franco. With his injury-plagued 2022 season, it's going to be interesting to see, what he can do. But if he can rebound, the Rays are going to be dangerous. Everything runs through Wander Franco. They only go as far as he'll take them. And if Wander Franco plays more like his rookie year, well, watch out, everybody. He's going to be a really special player. And this Rays team, don't sleep on him at all. Finishing fourth, I have the Baltimore Orioles, and honestly, you can pick them anywhere from second to last place in this division. I don't see them beating everyone for the division title. I don't think they have the rotation to do it, but they broke out last season, fighting all the way into deep September for a wild card spot. There's no question they have all the talent in the world to make a run for October. Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson, I mean, right there alone, your offense is in good hands for the future. They're adding a few more pieces to make everything work. I mean, they're going to be uber talented with the bat. It's really coming down to their rotation. Do they have enough in the rotation side? When is Grayson Rodriguez making his major league debut? When's he going to solidify himself in the rotation? These are questions we're going to have to wait and see. They have a good bullpen back there. I think they're about a year away from really being that divisional threat in the AL East. But I mean, they're going to be competitive this year, and I could see them finishing anywhere from second to last. I mean, and potentially being a playoff team still anyways. And finishing in last, we have the Boston Red Sox. I really don't know what to think of the Sox. I mean, they have some talent, but their ceiling, I feel, is very limited as they're really top heavy, when it comes to talent, and there's really no depth. Sure, there's talent in the lineup led by Rafael Devers. And yes, they could have a dangerous lineup 1 through 9. There's no questioning that. The question really is the rotation, the bullpen. Is Chris Sale ever going to return to form and stay healthy? Is this the year Kenley Jansen declines in production? Can Corey Kluber really be the answer and help develop a Brian Bello? There's so many questions with the Red Sox that I just feel like there's no other place I can place them other than dead last in the division. They're a couple years away, and they're a couple pieces away. I mean, there are too many questions with the Red Sox going forward. Moving on to the AL Central, where I, create a little bit of a surprise. I have the Minnesota Twins winning this division over the Cleveland Guardians. It will be a fight to game 162. It's going to come down the final week, and I think the Twins just barely hold on. They got a lucky break with the whole Carlos Correa situation, getting him on a fairly decent deal. The question really comes down to, are those injury concerns real, and will they ever rear their head out? Because if it does, and it does as soon as this year, that's going to be the end of the Twins. I mean, sorry to say that, but that would affect this entire thing. I don't think that's going to be the case this year. And to add to that, you go out and you get a potential ace in Pablo Lopez. However, I think the loss of Luis Arraez is a bigger deal than people are making it out to be. I think people are going like, well, they added Pablo Lopez, and that's great. Yeah, but Luis Arraez was a pain for everybody to face. But here's the thing. The Twins are dead set on this all-or-nothing approach to hitting. They have the guys that can outslug you. I mean, they go out and get Joey Gallo, and you're pairing him with what? Miguel Sano and all those guys. I mean, they're going all or nothing. And good for them. More power to them. They're going to try to outslug you, and they have the rotation now. Then the regular season, they're built to win the division. I think the question really is, yes, you have Yohan Duran potentially becoming a dominant closer, but you don't have much else in the bullpen. I don't think it's a team built for October, but I do think it's a team that's built to win the division, and it'll give them a chance. So Twins win the division. Finishing in second, I have my Cleveland Guardians, and they enter 2023 with a core that's, I'm going to be honest, according from what I've been told and taught, they're 2 years ahead of schedule. They thought that this would be the year they would start breaking through, and 2024 would be the big arrival. Well, they're 2 years ahead of schedule. Now, the injury of Tristan McKenzie plays a huge role into why I didn't pick him to win the division. I mean, if he's out 2 months, it's a huge blow to the Guardians. They're relying on a bunch of guys that, aren't ready, or they weren't ready to put in such a big role right away. However, the Guardians lineup is vastly improved. I mean, you're looking at team 1 through 9 that's very respectable all the way down. Mike Zunino probably adds an offensive upgrade, a catcher that they were looking for, while Bo Naylor gets ready to become the catcher of the future of the Guardians. You also add Josh Bell, who is a perfect fit in Cleveland to play first base every day, takes the pressure off Josh Naylor, lets him become a DH more often than not. And Josh Naylor had a great spring training. Add to that, you have 4 outfielders that you can play for defense, hitting, and speed, and Straw, Kwan, Gonzalez, and Will Brennan. I mean, you have a deep team. And now you have guys like Gavin Williams, Tanner Bybee. Those arms are close to arriving in Cleveland. They're only going to add to this rotation that looks absolutely dominant. The real question is, you have a locked up core with Andres Gimenez now locked up on a long-term deal. The future is bright in Cleveland. Here's the thing I question. If they are somewhat out of it come July, do the Guardians move Shane Bieber? And I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but he'll have 1.5 years left of control. That's how the Guardians work, and the pitching core is on the way. Wouldn't shock me if they're out of it at some point that they would move on from Shane Bieber, or they're just going to go all in with Bieber this year and see what they can do and then move him in the offseason if they can't extend him. But I think this is the last year of Shane Bieber in a Cleveland Guardians uniform. All right, finishing in third place, we have the Chicago White Sox. I originally had Detroit, but hearing the good news on Liam Hendriks kind of changed my pick. Now, the White Sox are my 2022 World Series pick. I'm not falling for this again. There's no questioning the talent of the White Sox. However, the loss of Jose Abreu looms very large. Now you're betting on a top 3 rotation of Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito, and Lance Lynn, while you're asking Andrew Vaughn, who I don't think is ready to put the production level of what Jose Abreu does for them, but you're asking him to do it now. So I don't think that's a good thing for the White Sox. I mean, yes, you have Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, and others. You have pieces that can make noise for you offensively. There's no questioning that. But again, there are a lot of injury concerns with this team. They're more boom or bust. And we'll see when Liam Hendriks can make his debut this season. It'll be a great day. And if they can hold the fort until he comes back, they can make a run. But other than that, they really don't have a bullpen. So the question is, let's say they're out of it. Could they move a Lance Lynn? Could they move a Lucas Giolito, or even Tim Anderson with Montgomery waiting in the minors? Only time will tell. This is a real crossroads year for the White Sox in 2023. Finishing fourth, I have the Detroit Tigers. Now, I'm higher on the Tigers than most. They finally moved in Comerica Park's walls, so it's going to be more hitter-friendly. I think this only helps the duo of Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. They're going to make their next big steps this year. I'm excited to see it. The Tigers have motivation with this being Miguel Cabrera's final year in the bigs. But at the end of the day, everything revolves around what Javi Baez does. Can he even rebound from his abysmal year last year? You know, they have some talented young arms. It'll be curious to see when Casey Mize can return and if he can return the form. Is Tarek Skubal for real? And his shoulder issues last year aren't lingering. We'll see what happens with, and can Matt Manning make the next step? You know, can he become a better pitcher? There are a lot of questions with the Tigers, but there's so much upside. I'm willing to bet on them in terms of, you know, them at least showing some progression in this year. But we'll see what the future holds for them. But for now, I got them finishing fourth, and we'll see how the young guys develop. And finishing in last, we have the Kansas City Royals. And look, it's not the fact that they don't have talent. You have Vinny Pasquantino. and Bobby Witt Jr., there's no questioning they have some young guys with talent. MJ Melendez as well. You could throw him in there, and Nick Prado and others. They have offensive talent. Other than Brady Singer, what have you got? You really don't have anything developing there. And who else is in your bullpen? I mean, there are a lot of question marks with the Royals, and they didn't really do anything to add to this team. I think they're really at a point where they need to move guys that they can still move for some value, like a Salvi Perez, especially in today's market. I think they could get somebody to eat most of the contract, if not half, and get good value back for him and move some of the other pieces that you're not going to move forward with and do that. But it all comes down to what their minor league arms are doing. They've drafted some high picks with pitchers, and we'll see how they develop over this year and if they can make another step forward. If they can, the Royals are going to be a threat in the AL Central in the near future. I'm not sleeping on them at all. I think they're extremely talented, but I think they're about a year or two away from really breaking through. All right, here we go, the AL West, and we're going to start with the shocker. The Seattle Mariners win the AL West. They finally broke their playoff drought in 2022, and now in 2023, they break their divisional title drought. This team is built to be extremely dangerous all over the place. Their 1 through 9 was already talented to begin with, and now you throw in Teoscar Hernandez. Their lineup's even more dangerous than it was before. It's a legitimate coup for them to get him. They didn't really lose much with Swanson. I think they got it back. And I mean, you have Matt Brash now back there filling that role. They've got some real arms in that bullpen. But going on from that, Julio Rodriguez, without question, has lived up to the expectations. He's only going to get better. The team chemistry is as good as anyone in the league. I mean, the addition of Luis Castillo was a perfect fit. You have George Kirby and Logan Gilbert behind him. Paul Sewell was a dominant closer last year. As I said, Matt Brash is there. This team isn't just built for the regular season. They're built for a run in October. They're really ready. It's not a matter of if they're going to get to the World Series for me. It's a matter of when. Now, here's my message. Don't screw this up against Seattle, please. Finishing in second, we have the Houston Astros, the defending world champs, without question, are extremely talented still. But here's the thing. Yes, you added Jose Abreu, and that's a great get. But you lost Verlander, and now you've lost Altuve to injury. We'll see the impact of that in the early stages, and if they can hold the fort, until Altuve gets back. But now Framber Valdez is the man who's the ace of the staff, and Christian Javier ready to take that next step behind him. I think the Verlander loss weighs a little bit heavier than I think people will think, and it won't be obvious until down the stretch. But we'll see how it goes. They still got a dangerous lineup. They still got a strong bullpen. They still got a strong rotation. They're going to be in it. It's all about just getting to October, and then they'll try to make a run then. All right, finishing in third, we have the Texas Rangers, my personal dark horse for the wild card. They have an extremely talented lineup with Adolis Garcia, Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, and also throwing Nathaniel Lau too. Throwing Josh Young in his first year. The Rangers have a really fun lineup to watch, and I'm excited to see what they do. Now you throw in Jacob deGrom, who's arguably the best arm in baseball, with his experience with Martin Perez, Andrew Heaney, and others. The Rangers very quietly have built a competitive roster here. I mean, what I'm more curious to see is, will Kumar Rocker and Jack Leiter progress and arrive this year if they're going to make a playoff run? It'll be interesting to see what they do. I'm more curious to see what their bullpen offers, if they can, lock down the closer role and, solidify roles there. If they can do that, the Rangers are very quietly ready to make that big step in the AL West and be a true threat there. In fourth place, we have the Los Angeles Angels, and they're at a crossroads. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. Are you rebuilding? Are you buying in? It's clear that Shohei Ohtani is probably gone after this season, will be dealt in July. But what do you do from here? Do you dare trade Mike Trout? Do you sell high on Patrick Sandoval? Do you completely blow it up? Or do you use Ohtani's money to build around those core guys that you've been building around at this point? That's where I think there are a lot of question marks with the Angels. And really everything comes down to, how do they start the season? Are they in contention or are they not? I honestly think there's no buzz around this team. I think very quietly the morale is very low with this team, and we will see very quickly that the Angels, yeah, it's time to just blow it up. It's just time. And finishing in last, the joke of Major League Baseball, the Oakland A's. I'm not even going to give them much time. I don't want to waste my breath with them. They are an embarrassment to the game for openly tanking to get out of Oakland. You get rid of one of the centerpieces of the Matt Olson trade in Christian Pache for nothing. I mean, I'm sorry. You're openly trying to get to Vegas. I don't respect you for it. And I'm not saying any more about the A's. Just a complete joke. Complete joke. Now, as for my wildcard teams, my 3 wildcards are as follows. Obviously, I'm going to say the top wildcard is going to be the Houston Astros, and they will host the Toronto Blue Jays in the wildcard round. And in the other wildcard series, the Cleveland Guardians will get their chance to take on the AL Central champion, Minnesota Twins, in the wildcard round. And now let's move over to the National League side and see how this all comes together. Let's start with the NL East, where the Atlanta Braves I have winning this division. And look, they may have taken a step back from being world champions in 2021. Maybe that World Series hangover, plus you had Acuna who was hurt. And, they had an early playoff exit, but they only added more talent with Sean Murphy this offseason in what I felt was a ripoff of a deal to get him, but good for them. I mean, Murphy adds arguably the best defensive catcher in baseball, and in that lineup probably will hit 20 home runs. I mean, he just adds a perfect fit for them, who's going to fit beautifully with their pitchers, only is going to make them better, reunites him with Matt Olson. Spencer Strider looks to be the real deal, and he is the ace for the Braves, and they only have more arms on the way. This Braves team is extremely deep. They're talented, and obviously their core is locked in. The Braves are not going anywhere. They're only running the NL East now. Finishing in second place, we have the New York Mets. Yes, Uncle Stevie does not get his divisional crown. And I think it's mostly because of the loss of Edwin Diaz this year. I mean, obviously you cannot replace an Edwin Diaz overnight. I think they eventually will get a closer or a reliever type that can close, because it's going to become a real issue very quickly. Sure, I mean, you have a great rotation, and you have a great lineup that you can outslug teams to win games, but if you can't hold the lead, you have a problem. And I think Lindor can look like an MVP candidate this year. Pete Alonso hitting 40 home runs. Scherzer and Verlander are ageless wonders, but if your bullpen cannot hold that lead, you are doomed. And I think that is the Achilles heel for the Mets this year, sadly. Finishing in third, we have the defending NL champion Philadelphia Phillies, who only got stronger, adding Trey Turner, Gregory Soto, and divisional rival Taijuan Walker, really pushing all their chips in. However, the loss of Reese Hoskins is going to be a big one, and Bryce Harper can only DH this season. I'll be curious with his injury. Could he even play some first? I wouldn't be against that idea, but we'll see. However, I mean, they're loaded 1 through 9, in their lineup. There's no questioning that. And their rotation looks to be even better this year. And I think Gregory Soto can be a dominant closer there. I think the pressure is on for the Phillies to see how they handle the expectations now that they kind of have come out of nowhere. So we'll see how they handle it. Finishing in fourth, we have the Miami Marlins. And here's the thing. I feel like Miami is just a team that can shock everyone with their pitching and just come out of nowhere with their bats, that they could just be, overachievers with their bats this year. I mean, you have Sandy Alcantara leading a very talented, I will say it is a volatile rotation. I think there's a lot of injury concerns here, but they're so good when they're on. I think if they're all on, I mean, it's one of the best rotations in baseball. Now, granted, they don't have the closer role really set, so we'll see what happens. But on the offensive side, you have Jazz Chisholm leading the way. The Marlins, I feel like, are a middle-of-the-order threat away from really making noise in the NL East. I'm not saying win the division, but we'll see. The question is, will they be willing to spend the prospect capital or even the money to go get it? It's probably doubtful, but it just feels like this kind of a Marlins team is just set up to be that team that comes literally out of nowhere, wins a World Series out of nowhere, almost like the 03 team. Just like the 03 team. I just feel like there's so many vibes there. And if that ends up being true, remember this video. And in last place, we have the Washington Nationals. I'm not going to give them a lot of time. I mean, you have Kyber Ruiz and Josiah Gray. They're interesting to watch their continued development. Their minor leaguers are going to be fun to watch. I've mentioned multiple ones in my top 50 rankings. However, the major league team is going to be just tough to watch. And even though it's gloomy right now in Washington, the future, though, is extremely bright for them. So only time will tell in Washington. In the NL Central, we have the St. Louis Cardinals winning the division. I think they are a sleeping giant if they can get one more ace. They have a solid bullpen, great defense on the field, and a great lineup with Jordan Walker making his long-awaited debut. And I think the lineup with, Walker, Arenado, and Goldschmidt in the middle is just going to be special. I mean, you even throw Tyler O'Neill in there, Tommy Edman, Wilson Contreras, and others. Oh, boy, what a lineup they have. I mean, again, if they can get one more ace, I mean, like, this is a team that very quietly, no one's talking about as a World Series contender, but I'm going to say it. Go get Shohei Ohtani and go win yourselves a World Series. Don't worry about him leaving in the offseason. Try to convince him to stay. You didn't think Mark McGwire would stay, and then he did. Just saying. Go get Ohtani just to burn baseball to the ground. In second place, you have the Milwaukee Brewers, who go into the season with the best duo in the bigs, with their rotation being Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff. However, they haven't extended either of them, which leaves the question, if they don't compete this year, are they available? I mean, I think everybody's going to start asking those questions in teams like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, even the Cardinals, though they'll never trade to the Cardinals, the Twins, the Guardians, even the Astros. I feel like the Astros would be a sleeping giant on that one. But would they be available? They did upgrade their catching position with breakout star William Contreras and also had Jesse Winker. But again, everything with this team revolves around Christian Yelich returning to some form of 2018, 2019. I don't think we're ever going to see that guy again, but even if it's a little bit like that, maybe they would have something here. I just don't know how much longer they can keep operating at this level. And yes, they got some young, talented kids on the way, but they're about a year or two away. So it'll be interesting to see what the Brewers do this season, how, if they don't make it back to the playoffs, what they do from there. In third place, you have the Chicago Cubs, and I think they look to be trending up with getting Dansby Swanson in his prime with some of the top prospects on the way coming soon. They're not rushing, nor are they forcing the pay guys. Yes, Swanson was a big payday, but not a complete overpay. So it was a good get for them and locks down their shortstop position going forward. I think the question mark is really the rotation. They have a bunch of older vets that, maybe they should have traded, but they're not. And I don't know what the upside is with a bunch of their arms. They have some potential relievers that are interesting and effective. We'll see how they do. It really comes down to, can they keep developing Seiya Suzuki? Can they rebuild Cody Bellinger and Nick Madrigal as well? Because if they can do that and then keep those guys around, they will be starting to build something there in Chicago. What it is, I don't know, but it'll be a better team than what they've been putting on the field the past couple seasons. In fourth place, you have the Pittsburgh Pirates, who are in an interesting situation as well. This whole division is just fascinating to see where everybody is and how it could fall. But here's the thing, they have major league talent on the roster that's really good. Brian Reynolds, O'Neill Cruz, Mitch Keller, David Bednar, and others. But here's the thing, you've not reached a deal with Brian Reynolds, Mitch Keller, nor David Bednar. And these are all very attractive trade pieces. And this is an ownership that doesn't spend money at all. They don't like spending it at all. I think they will have the most attractive trade pieces come July. And I think to say that one or all will be moved. Now, however, I think you have, with O'Neill Cruz on your roster, multiple top prospects arriving soon, you should just pay Reynolds and actually buy into the fact you probably have a more competitive core than what you're thinking. I mean, you added some veterans like a Carlos Santana to the group. It'll be interesting to see what the Pirates do, but I'm curious what direction they're going this year. And finishing in last, you have the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, ownership over the last year deserves criticism because of their comments to the fans last year. However, I do think they're building something special in Cincinnati. Hunter Green looks to be a future ace, and Nick Lodolo looks to be a strong number 2 with them. You got a major haul in the Luis Castillo trade, and a near A-plus trade. Yes, it sucks to see Luis Castillo being even more dominant in Seattle, but you weren't competing. You got a great haul for him. Don't really complain about it. And you're building a potentially star-studded infield led by Elly De La Cruz in the near future. I think Elly De La Cruz is your future. If I'm the Reds, I try to do everything to lock him up to a 10-year deal before he even plays a game, and just have this kid for the future and invest in your kids. The Reds may be playing cheap right now, but I just feel like once their core starts arriving, man, they're going to be really talented, and they'll pay for some vets then. In the NL West, leading the way, you have the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have a plethora of talent and experience. They also have a bitter taste in their mouth getting beat by their rival San Diego in the playoffs last year. They also potentially are facing the final year of Clayton Kershaw. They have the motivation to make one final run with him. Julio Urias and Dustin May, returning from injury, are all ready to take that next step as leaders of that rotation. I think you add a Noah Syndergaard in there to that group as well is a very strong thing to add. I mean, he didn't look like the old ace, but he looks like a good back-end start, and the Dodgers will find a way to make him look really good. Their lineup remains mostly intact with young top prospects close to their rival or even potential trade chips to add even more top-end talent. If they put Diego Cartaya available, they can get anyone on the trade market. Shohei Ohtani. I mean, that's probably, and that's been their goal. They want Ohtani. They're not spending a ton of money because that's the goal. They're going to get Ohtani next year. But at the end of the day, this offense runs through Mookie Betts, and I think he's an MVP candidate all year long. I think they're built to win the division. The question is, can they get that final piece that puts them over the top? And that's where I'm saying Ohtani-san may not have to look far to be to play in for another team. In second, you have the San Diego Padres. I mean, that's kind of obvious. I mean, they fell just short of a World Series appearance, but they didn't stand around quietly. And they added Xander Bogaerts and Matt Carpenter to a stacked San Diego lineup. There's no question 1 through 9. There's hitters everywhere, led by Manny Machado and Juan Soto. The question is, where does Fernando Tatis Jr. fit in all of this when he's no longer suspended, and how does he perform? If Tatis can return to form with the pieces they have, they may have the best lineup in baseball with a strong pitching staff led by Yu Darvish and Joe Musgrove. Adding Michael Wacha gives them experience, and hopefully they get a good Josh Hader, in the closer role. I mean, there's a lot of reasons to pick this Padres team to win their first World Series, and honestly, they're not necessarily wrong in doing so. In third place, you have the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I think they are fascinating as a potential playoff dark horse. Zach Gallen looked like a potential Cy Young candidate last year, and Merrill Kelly broke out as well. The rotation is not perfect, but it's solid with a solid bullpen. Although I think they could use a closer upgrade, and it's something we'll see over the year how they do, and if they can improve. But the strength lies in that offense, led by Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and rookie sensation Corbin Carroll. But here's the thing: they added Lourdes Gurriel Jr., Evan Longoria, and top catching prospect Gabriel Moreno. I mean, it gives the Diamondbacks talent, veteran leadership, and upside to have a special lineup. I mean, they're going to be in it all year long for a playoff spot, I think, and quietly might make the playoffs this year as a wild card. In fourth place, you have the San Francisco Giants, and well, they whiffed on Aaron Judge, and Carlos Correa failed his physical. Add to that, Carlos Rodon left for New York, and the Giants added only Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto to the lineup and are betting for striking gold like Jock Peterson last year. However, they really need Joey Bart to live up to the hype. And I'm just going to say this, their rotation is extremely skeptical. Logan Webb has taken a little bit of a step back, and I expect him to return to some form that we expect from him. But here's the thing, outside that, you're betting on Sean Manaea, who's got injury history and was not effective in San Diego to fill that Carlos Rodon void. I think that's a huge red flag. I just don't know what direction they're going in, and they're in such a weird spot with a top-heavy division like the NL West with LA and San Diego, throwing the young, youthful talent of Arizona. It's going to be a real challenge for this team. And lastly, you have the Colorado Rockies finishing in dead last, and I still don't know what the Rockies are doing. And they're my number 2 team. I still don't know what they're doing. They have young talent in the minors, but their lack of commitment to either rebuilding or buying in, I think it's going to keep them in limbo. I think that Chris Bryant deal really limits their full potential. I expect German Marquez to be dealt at some point before the deadline with possibly Charlie Blackmon if they can get any value for him. At the end of the day, I feel like the Rockies are a ship without a rudder. No direction whatsoever. Now, in the National League, we have, in the wild card game, we have the Atlanta Braves hosting the Arizona Diamondbacks. I'm very happy to say that one. And then we have the San Diego Padres facing the New York Mets in the R1. So the Padres, Mets, and Diamondbacks are your 3 wild card teams. Yes, the Phillies missed the playoffs. All right, real quick before we get into our playoff predictions on this, want to go over some awards, and we'll start with the AL MVP as you're seeing it right now. I'm picking Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. I think if the Mariners overtake the Astros, it will be because of the continued development of Rodriguez, who I think easily puts up a 30-30 season, driving in over 100 runs while hitting around 310. I think the shift rule is going to benefit him a little bit. But I think what also is going to help him is the new rules with the pitch clock. He's going to steal around 40 bases, I think, potentially, and people will be buzzing with him leading the Mariners past the Astros. I expect Ohtani to be dealt to a National League team, which is why I didn't pick him to win the MVP. So there you go. In the National League, we have Francisco Lindor winning the NL MVP. So much for people having me calling me a hater about him. I think it's going to come down to Soto, Mookie Betts, or Nolan Arenado. I think it's Lindor's all-around ability where I think he'll hit over 300, hit over 30 homers, driving over 100 runs. I expect 20-plus steals and Gold Glove defense from him as well. I think he's going to be the most well-rounded player in the National League, and it's going to keep the Mets in contention for the NL East crown, even without, Edwin Diaz. He's going to be a big reason as to why they're in it all year round. As for the AL Cy Young, yes, I'm going with another Mariner. I'm sorry, but Luis Castillo, I feel like, is in for a huge year this year. Originally, I said Alek Manoah, but man, I just feel like this is the only way that the Mariners are going to overtake the Astros is, something like this. And look, Luis Castillo looked dominant for the Mariners. I think that continues again. I think he wins about 18 to 20 games and 2.35 ERA and over 225 Ks this year, maybe even over 250. But I think he establishes himself as Seattle's ace and makes their trade investment well worth it. In the NL Cy Young, we have Spencer Strider of the Atlanta Braves. Strider is the real deal. He's got electric stuff and is clearly the Braves ace going forward. I expect a similar year like he had his rookie season this year, but taking only the next step. He only pitched 131 2/3 innings last year, struck out 202 batters. I think if he can hit 175 innings, like I expect, you're looking at close to 300 Ks with him and 20 wins from this kid. This kid is really special for the Braves and looks to be like their next big ace for them. So he's going to win the Cy Young this year. My AL Rookie of the Year, I'm picking Anthony Volpe, and I know this goes against what a lot of people are going to say. They're going to why, Alex, why? But here's the thing. I don't think it's his stats that are going to be why he wins it. I think they're going to be irrelevant. Volpe has that Jeter vibe around him, playing shortstop on the AL East champion Yankees. It's going to get him votes. He'll steal a ton of bases like he did, taking advantage of the rules in the minors. There's no question about that. He's done it all the time. I think he'll be an elite table setter for the Yankees, and it's something they've lacked. And I think his power is going to be better at Yankee Stadium in that Little League Park, and he wins the AL Rookie of the Year. National League Rookie of the Year, Corbin Carroll. Do I really need to explain myself at this point? This is the third time I've pointed him out in a video. Moving on. Now we are on to our playoff predictions. And here we go. In the wild card round, we have the Cleveland Guardians versus the Minnesota Twins. And I have Cleveland beating Minnesota. I think it's Cleveland's experience and dominant bullpen with Bieber and McKenzie, starting the first two games. It's going to be more than enough for the Guardians to beat the inexperienced Twins. I think they easily cruise to the ALDS. And then the other series, Houston, Toronto, I have the Astros out slugging their way with Framber Valdez and Christian Javier being their dominant pitching selves, putting the Astros into the next round. setting up a series with the Seattle Mariners as the Guardians will face the New York Yankees. Over in National League, we have Atlanta facing Arizona, and I think Arizona will be ahead of schedule. They'll be too young, and they won't have the pitching or bullpen to hang with the Braves. It'll be an easy 2-game sweep for the Braves. And then San Diego beats the Mets to move on as well. And I think they overpower the Mets, sending Uncle Stevie mad into the offseason, and he will make a ridiculous attempt to go get Shohei Ohtani. All right, in the ALDS, in our first matchup, we have the New York Yankees facing the Cleveland Guardians once again. And I think this is a very good series. I think it comes down to potentially 5 games here. But I have the Yankees beating the Guardians. I think the top 3 rotation of Cole, Rodon, and Cortez is too much for the Guardians to handle. And I just think it leaves the Guardians in a place going into next year knowing what they need to do in order to get over the hump. I think they're just one more pitcher away. If they add a pitcher at the deadline like a Woodruff, maybe I change my pick here, but I think the Yankees' top 3 is better than right now the Guardians' top 3. And that's the reason why I'm going to go with the Yankees knocking off the Guardians. And then the other matchup we have, and then we have Seattle versus Houston, where I have Seattle beating the Astros, ending their reign once and for all. They remember last season, and they get their revenge with a dominant rotation, and MVP Julio Rodriguez dominating the Astros, ending the reign once and for all. On the National League side, we start with the LA Dodgers versus the Atlanta Braves. And I think as much as I want to pick the Braves, I feel like the Dodgers are going to try to make a real run with Kershaw one more time, rally around him, and try to make that run with them. I think it goes to a 5th game, and the Dodgers just barely hold on and win that series to knock off the Braves. In the other matchup, we have the San Diego Padres versus the St. Louis Cardinals, and I think this is an epic 5-game war between the two, where Juan Soto plays hero in Game 5 in St. Louis, hitting a home run to win it, making his case for his monster contract. That leaves us with our ALCS matchup, with the New York Yankees facing the Seattle Mariners. I think this is a battle of experience versus youth, and the experience will beat the youth. I think it ends up being a great 6-game series where the Mariners give the Yankees almost everything they can handle and really seem to be on the verge of making that World Series. However, I think the Yankees, group of pitchers is just as dominant as the Mariners core, and it's Aaron Judge going off in the ALCS, winning ALCS MVP, and Anthony Volpe playing a major role with his table-setting ability. I think it's more so a learning lesson for Seattle. They're close. They're not there yet, but they could be next year. Hint, hint. And in the NLCS, we have the San Diego Padres versus the Los Angeles Dodgers. Once and for all, the Padres take control of the state of California, beating the Dodgers in a 6-game series, which ends with Clayton Kershaw losing Game 6 in Los Angeles, and he gets a hero send-off after the Dodgers are defeated. The one note I will make with this is I think this is a battle between the 2 teams that will get Ohtani at the deadline, and whoever gets him, I think, ends up winning this series. So if the Dodgers get Ohtani, I would change this pick. And here we go, our World Series matchup. The New York Yankees versus the San Diego Padres, a 1998 World Series rematch, where the Yankees beat the Padres once again. It comes down to Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon dominating the Padres lineup and Anthony Volpe living up to his hype as the Jeter successor. I think the Yankees' youth that they are injecting into this team is a huge factor of why the Yankees can do this. And it's guys like Volpe and Peraza who can run circles around the bases and just cause fits for everybody. That is going to be the difference in this, in this entire, series. I think the moment will be in, game 6, Josh Hader on the mound facing Giancarlo Stanton, trying to hold a 1-run lead. And Giancarlo hits a 3-run bomb to give the Yankees a 2-run lead that seals the deal. And the Yankees win their first world championship since 2009. All right, there you guys go. Those are my predictions for this season. But I do want to say one thing. Predictions are just predictions. There's so many variables with this season, with the looming Shohei Ohtani trade that's going to happen at some point this year, and any other big name that might become available, Brian Reynolds being one of them. These predictions probably aren't going to hold, and I probably just jinxed the New York Yankees franchise. So to Yankee fans, I apologize, I guess. No, I don't. I don't apologize at all. I don't. You're not winning now. We'll see. I don't know. But anyways, tell me who you guys think is going to win the World Series this year. Tell me, did you agree with my predictions? Did you not agree with my predictions? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe and share this everywhere on social media. Thank you guys for watching, and we will talk to you next time.